my daughter and her boyfriend. And leave it to 2 in the back. Bobby Brown. Now, oh, yeah. The Lord. There's 3 on the whole. Except Brown.
Ya me quitan esto la semana. Next Monday, bro. Dale. And there he is. Oye,
Actually. No problem. Call the roll, please.
Mayor Mitchell,
Here.
Vice Mayor Fahet.
Here.
Councilman Santeen,
Here.
Councilwoman Bravo,
Here.
Councilman Vasquez.
Here.
There is a quorum present.
Thank you. Please rise if you are able to and join us in the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance. Our Father in heaven, we ask that you grant us the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, the courage and determination to work together to change the things that we can and should change, and the wisdom to know the difference. Amen. Please join us in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to our May 13th meeting. It's so nice to see everyone that's here in our audience and those of you that are joining us virtually. We'll get started with awards and presentations, and our first one is an update from our Senior Center Director, Tammy Key. And I want to just say, I asked Tammy to present to us because when I've been at the Senior Center recently, we've just been talking about such good things that are happening there. So I wanted to make sure that we all hear it, the council and also our community. Okay.
Thank you to the mayor and council for allowing me to speak this evening about the Miami Springs Adult Community Center. Our numbers have increased dramatically since we opened the doors to our beautiful center. I would like to share some of those numbers with you, but first I would like to talk about the community center staff. Without them, none of this would be possible. In addition to providing meals, fitness classes, art, music classes, and meaningful special events, they also provide kindness, joy, friendship, and community. While it is easy to find people who have expertise and job experience, it is a gift to find people who care deeply. The city has been blessed, and so have I. Thank you. Our amazing kitchen staff now serves 4,400 meals each month. To date, this year, we have served 17,900 congregate meals and 24,072 homebound meals. Our average daily attendance in April was 295 people per day. Our attendance when Angie Aguila and I began in our old field house averaged 100 a day. This is a 195% increase. Our talented music instructor and art instructors now offer 13 classes per week. These include acrylic and watercolor painting, drawing, plein air painting at the Curtis Mansion, embroidery, sewing, choral singing, and music sight reading. Our team of fitness instructors works hard to help our seniors regain and or maintain strength, balance, and self-confidence by offering 20 class options per week, as well as personal training in our gym 5 days a week. This year, we have expanded our fitness program to include Tai Chi for wheelchair users and caregivers, flamenco, ballet bar, cardio dance, and belly dancing. In the field house, we were only able to offer chair fitness and Tai Chi. In order to provide free health screenings, health education, consumer education, and continuing education programming, we have partnered and built relationships with the Department of Health, the Miami-Dade Fire Department, the Hialeah Miami Springs Rotary, the Lions Club, the Securities and Exchange Commission, the Miami-Dade Public Library, and AARP. During these difficult economic times, our relationship with the Hialeah Miami Springs Rotary has allowed us to provide 112 $50 Walmart gift cards for the purchase of groceries to seniors in need. We are very grateful for their generosity and hope they know what an impact they have had on the quality of of life for so many seniors in our community. The Adult Community Center staff and our community partners have done an amazing job of providing all of these services, all while creating a positive, loving, welcoming environment for people to stay healthy, learn, and make new friends. I would like to say a special thank you to Angie Aguila, the Betty Bray, Melanie Perez, and Chantel Javier for all you do behind the scenes and for what you do one-on-one to care for the people that we serve. And last but not least, thank you to the city for their support and for having the vision to build our incredible facility. On June 7th, from 6 to 9, the Adult Community Center will be throwing its very first senior prom, a 1950s themed dance featuring great music, vintage cars, the crowning of senior king and queen, and plenty of photo opportunities. I hope that everyone can join us. Thank you.
Tammy, thank you. I think that deserves a round of applause. Thank you, Angie, Betty, everyone else at the senior center, and our seniors. They're the ones that make it fun, that make it lively, and so we're greatly appreciative of all the work you do, and it really shows every time you go by there. Just the fun, the laughter, the ambiance, so many activities going on. We're very, very grateful to have the senior center here in our city and have the quality of programs and care that you give.
Thank you, Tammy and Angie.
Thank you. And kudos to the staff.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. All right, we'll move to the next item, which is the Yard of the Month Award. And I'm not sure if the
Oh.
Perez family is here.
The Salom family, no?
Okay, well, the Yard of the Month Award for this month is for Michael and Melisande Perez. They live at 543 Hunting Lodge. So we have a certificate here for them and we'll get it to them. But if you get a chance, please, sometime during the month, drive by and, just appreciate the beautiful yard that they have worked so hard to present for our community. And we thank them for beautifying our city. And now we'll move to a very special presentation for our City Hall Lobby Artist of the Month this month is Mr. Aiden. And if you've seen his work downstairs, Aiden, come on up. With your dad, come on up and tell us a little bit about the artwork.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
So this proud little artist
Is the artist?
named.
Aiden.
Good job. He goes to Loyola Preschool here in Miami Springs. He works very hard on his weekly projects in art class, and his favorite thing to make is
Sonic.
Sonic the Hedgehog.
Oh, okay.
You guys have any questions for him?
How old are you, Aiden?
5.
Oh my goodness. And you're already a talented artist who is having exhibits. I can't even imagine.
You're recognized.
Yes, and recognized. And thank you on the part of all of us at City Hall, but also for our residents for beautifying City Hall for this month, for making it an attractive place to visit this entire month. And I invite everyone, if you get a chance, drop by City Hall and make sure you see his exhibit. So we're going to take a photo with you. Invite all the family too.
Claro, claro, toda la familia.
Thank you. Bye. Thank you.
And I want to remind everyone in our community, if you are an artist or you have artists in your family, be sure to reach out to our public information officer, Shannon. She's awesome. And we'd love to have an opportunity to have your work displayed in City Hall 1 month. Okay, so I will open it up for, do we have anyone signed up for open forum, Erica? Okay. All right, so we don't have anyone signed up for open forum, so we'll move to agenda item 6 is approval of council minutes for the April 22nd meeting.
So move.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Call the vote, please.
Vice Mayor Fahet,
Yes.
Councilman Santeen,
Yes.
Councilwoman Bravo,
Yes.
Councilman Vasquez.
Yes.
Mayor Mitchell.
Yes,
The motion carries.
thank you. Okay, we move to item 8, which is a public hearing. Roger, are you going to, or JC, talk about it?
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. This is an ordinance on second reading titled An Ordinance of the Mayor and the City Council of the City of Miami Springs, Florida, comprehensively amending the City Code of Ordinances to allow notice by publication to be made in any manner permitted under Florida law, including through publicly accessible websites, providing for severability, providing for conflicts, providing for codification, and providing for an effective date.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, I have to call a public hearing first. So let me open the meeting for a public hearing on this ordinance. Is there anyone that wishes to speak, even if you haven't signed up? If you wish to speak, come up. We'll be happy to hear from you. Erica, do we have anyone waiting
No, Mayor. we don't.
virtually?
No.
All right, I'm closing the public hearing. Call the vote, please.
Vice Mayor Fahet,
Yes.
Councilman Santeen,
Yes.
Councilwoman Bravo,
Yes.
Councilman Vasquez.
Yes.
Mayor Mitchell.
Yes.
The motion carries.
Thank you. Okay, we move to new business, and I was going to ask to move 11B before we do 11A, because I think that would be, but School Board Member Espino's not here yet. Is he coming?
No, I was going to tell you, Mayor, he called and he said he's not going to be able to make it. He's a county and a half away in another meeting and he's not going to make it here in time, but he fully supports this and wants it to continue. So
Okay.
when we get to that item, I can elaborate a little more.
Okay,
on the
all
next
right,
steps.
wonderful. All right, so then we'll continue in the order. So we have 11A, which is an ordinance on our tree protection program.
Hello again. So again, this is an ordinance on first reading. This is an ordinance of the City of Miami Springs, Florida, comprehensively amending Chapter 54, the Tree Protection Program of the city's Code of Ordinances to revise permitting procedures, regulations, and penalties relating to tree protection, removal, and relocation, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, providing for codification, and providing for an effective date. Mayor, members of the council, this ordinance has been a long time in the making, thanks to our wonderful Board of Parks and Parkways, and I know that our council member Bravo has absolutely provided a ton of input and guidance to that committee in revising this ordinance. Our office also did take a look at this ordinance. And added a
Recording in
couple of other
progress.
provisions. We have seen in other municipalities to deal with specific issues that will protect the public. If I can give a 500-foot overview, I think that might be helpful for everyone on the council. Good?
Sure.
So this ordinance really accomplishes three things. It revises our existing permitting procedures to provide the city's staff with the tools that are necessary to review permits in a more comprehensive manner. It also, as part of that permitting procedure framework rework, creates a canopy credit system wherein if a tree cannot be saved by making minor modifications to a structure that's being planned for construction, the tree cannot be relocated on the existing site, and tree removal is really the only option, then that removal needs to be mitigated either through the
Tree trust fund.
right. either through a contribution to the tree trust fund or by planting a certain amount of trees that are necessary to replace the canopy that is lost because of the removal of a tree. It is fairly technical how the canopies credits are calculated, and one of the things that we need to provide also on second reading will be a actual resolution adopting a fee schedule setting the contribution fees and the permit fee processing. That will be presented to you together with second reading, of course. I did make it in this ordinance so that adoption of any fees is done by resolution to allow the city to have a nimbleness and a responsiveness to adjusting any fees and measures that we may need in the future. Staff is aware of this and is working with our office, of course, on that aspect. The second major area of improvement to this ordinance deals with its exceptions. It clarifies a lot of the existing exceptions, as we've discussed previously. And the third major point that this ordinance goes over is it addresses code enforcement fines. Very often trees are sort of a value cannot be placed on them. So when they are removed without any thought or permission from the city, it has more of an impact than just money, right? It destroys our canopy, and we want to preserve that as much as possible. So what we've done with this ordinance is we've added teeth to our code enforcement process where there is a violation, so that if someone fails to obtain a tree removal permit as they're required to, it will be a continuing violation until the property owner who has violated our ordinance comes into the city and provides a permit application. So again, that's a $250 continuing fine until the property owner comes in and submits an appropriate tree permit application. In the event that the tree permit application requires modifications or changes, let's say a bad actor that didn't properly submit the form, continuing violation fines continue to go into effect until the person revises the permit application and submits it correctly. Another aspect to this is that not all tree removals are equal. A very small tree may not have as large of an impact as large 50-year-old oak trees, as I like to give as an example. In those circumstances, the city manager is being provided with discretion to bring certain code enforcement violations for cutting a tree without a permit to the special magistrate to determine whether it's an uncorrectable violation. And if that finding is made, the tree violation could be penalized with an additional amount up to $5,000. The last aspect to the code enforcement bite that we are adding is that in the event that you do cut a tree without the requisite permit, you will be required to mitigate the tree removal by replacing it with up to 2 times the amount of trees as ordinarily would have been required. Lastly, and I'll of course allow everyone to provide their comments, I just want to mention that I was able to speak with city staff, and they did suggest that in between first and second reading, this be presented to the Board of Parks and Parkways just for further evaluation as to the technical aspects of this ordinance. There's a lot of moving parts here, and the exact foot and square footage that may be required for some of these things is best handled, at that Board of Parks and Parkway, I would suggest.
Let me just,
Sorry.
before we get started on it, I wanted to be sure we don't forget to thank Councilwoman Bravo for the extraordinary
collaborative
effort that I know that you've put in. This hasn't been an ongoing project that you've been working on for quite a while. And I can tell, we can all tell the amount of work that this required. So thank you. Our Parks Board, all of our Parks Advisory Board members, we're very, very grateful for their work on this. Roger, you and your team, our Public Works employees. And am I missing anyone? Because I know this is a collective effort on JC, Tammy,
Liz. Great
Liz.
job.
I want to be sure that you all know before we get into discussions, this is greatly appreciated. It's long overdue, and we're definitely heading in the right direction, something that has always been in our hearts of making sure that we're adequately protecting the existing trees that we have and promoting the planting of new trees and constantly trying to enhance and protect our tree canopy. So with that, Councilwoman, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you for allowing me the consensus to move forward and work with our team and staff to get this to today. Just to let you know, I did thank the board as well, and we've been in continuous communication. And last week, I had Erica send an email to all of them, see if they can come out and, just if they wanted to provide some feedback. Everything that's here was done between all of us, so they know what's going on. It's just we're gonna fix a little bit, not fix, but add on some technicalities that I think that should just be part of it. So they are on board, but definitely we're moving in the right direction, and I can't wait. And you'll see in a year how drastic the changes will be when you don't see certain beautiful trees go down. And it's so hot. It's so hot in Miami. It just gets hotter every day. And then people are like, I don't want trees. But I'm like, well, why are you walking on my side where I have trees? So everybody will be able to walk under shade soon. So with that said, thank you. And I hope we can move this on first reading so that it can come back, obviously, after the board sees it, and then we can finalize it on the second.
Okay, does anyone have any comments? Do we have a motion?
Yes, I'll go ahead and do a motion to approve 11A.
Second.
Okay, discussion? I do have some items for discussion.
Okay.
I have a lot of items for
Okay.
discussion. However, I don't think that this is necessarily the best place. I do
Okay.
like what you and Roger suggested, which is what I was going to suggest, that this go to the Parks Board. Getting this far, a massive achievement, because before we were talking about it, but there was nothing really on paper. So with the Parks Board, what I'd like to do is when it goes before them, and I think there's a meeting in June, is that we really advertise to our residents to attend so that they have the ability, now that they have something concrete to look at, to provide information. I have a lot of comments and that need to be addressed, and I think it's better there. But one of the things, for instance, is, I'll just throw this out, is we have in here on replacement trees. When one is taken out, the ability to put in palms. It's my understanding, and I could be wrong on this, that palms do not count toward our tree canopy. So if we're removing a tree, and if that's correct, and I don't know, that's always been my understanding. So we don't want to allow removal of a tree and
Yeah.
placing palms, because we're in effect, not that I love palms, but it's depleting our numbers count for the tree canopy. So there's a whole bunch of things here that I think require a much closer look. I think the species themselves, we need a better table when we talk about, say, a black olive, specifically with a table, what species fall under black olives, because and it doesn't have to be in the text, because that would go on and on and on every paragraph, but that there is a table for reference that
She's on.
yes, exactly. That, describes that very closely, because we all, especially with things like palms and other trees, we all call them different things. And what's important is the species. I'd like to make sure, and I'm just throwing this out there, throughout this, there is reference to the department we'll decide, and I'm not sure what department we're
Yeah.
talking about. I think we need clarification on that. Are we talking about Public
That's-
Works, the city manager,
That's a defined term that means the Public Works Department.
okay,
Yeah.
so, and then I would like to make sure that not everything is on their backs, because some decisions are difficult. And I know, Liz, that some decisions that your department has had to make are difficult, that there's always that ability to get support from us, a backup from our city manager or from the council when necessary, and at your discretion. Well, as you can see, and when we have that meeting, I'll certainly provide my comments, but I'm sure the community would. I don't know if you were copied. I know I reached out, I believe. I'm very big on tapping into the professional expertise of our residents. We have some amazing residents, very, very highly qualified in just about every field you can think of. And I know last night I got an email from
Ms. Patrick.
pardon me?
Fitzpatrick.
Yes, who works with the UF Horticultural Society. He's a professor. And he had several comments that I want to make sure that we
Okay.
pass on to the
Better.
Parks Board. I asked him, I spoke with him today. I called him and I asked, when we have the meeting at the Parks Board, would you come and provide technical guidance on this? Because I think what we want to make sure of is that, and this sometimes happens, is that we're looking at something in a certain way, protecting the tree. And so we're writing it a certain way, but it may have unintended consequences that, that kind of left an opening for things that we didn't want to occur. So that's going to take a lot of eyes. Excuse me. And I wanted to ask Roger and Councilwoman Bravo, as far as the the text, the background for this. You looked at some other cities. My understanding is like Coral Gables and Miami Lakes and all this. Have we had any organization that's not a municipality, but that is an organization that is, I'm thinking Neat Streets, Tree City USA. I'm just throwing those out, that can look at this and give us their, at least one or two. I'd like them to have an opportunity between now and the Parks Board meeting to kind of look it over and give us any comments, anything glaring that,
So as to whether any other organizations have looked at this, I know for a fact that the CGA provided the support of their in-house arborist.
okay,
to
wonderful,
specifically
good.
look at this. Miss Tammy Cook, and she did review the ordinance and provided a couple of recommendations. Her largest contribution, in fact, you can see as part of the tree protection standards under 3-11, which we already had tree protection standards when construction is occurring. That's the tree protection I'm talking about, tree barriers. But she did provide recommendations as to some of the standards that the city of Coral Gables had, for example, that are a little more protective
Okay,
of existing trees.
and
But happy, of course, to reach out to other organizations.
yes, sir.
But do we not have an arborist on staff currently?
We do not.
No.
I know that when
We-
Tom Nash left, I remember asking who was going to take over, and I think what was said was that there was a plan in place for somebody to kind of train.
Yeah.
I don't know if we outsourced it
Yeah.
or,
It's outsourced at this time. So the company that provides our tree trimming provides our arborist services on contract basis. The educational requirements to become an arborist requires several years of schooling
Mhm.
and apprenticeship.
Mhm.
And at this time, I don't have anybody on staff that wanted to do it.
so the person that we outsource it to, when you say they're under contract, can they look at this? Or is that, or so do we have them like on a retainer or? on as-
No.
as
No, we
needed
don't have,
basis?
it's on an as needed basis. They review the permits that we're not able to do in-house. So complex permits, trees that we feel need to go to them, that it's not like an everyday type of evaluation, then we call in the arborist to take care of that for us. I think the recommendation, I think with the city planners and CGA looking at it and putting their eyes to it, I think that gave a really things that we didn't think of when we were sitting, evaluating it as common folks, right? Because that's what we are. We're a group of people that are looking out for the canopy of the city. So I think that was the right move. And I commend Roger and whoever made that recommendation. That was fantastic. Going to another organization might take some time. I think the resident that you were talking about to review it, I think that would be great. To have somebody do that. Again, it might be a time constraint.
Well,
I know the next
keep in
meeting is
mind,
June 11th.
yes, but keep in mind, this has taken a long time. A
Right.
lot of effort has gone into this.
Absolutely.
It's not something that, and so I think it's really important that because our tree canopy is so important to
It
us and
deserves the
because we've
time,
been
yeah.
having,
That's right.
yes, it's, let's do this. If that is in agreement with everyone, what Councilwoman Bravo suggested and Roger is that it'll go to the Parks Board. Let's please advertise a lot on social media to our residents that it's provided here and that we want them to attend if they have any interest.
June 11th.
June 11th for the boards
At
and park.
6 or 7, when do they meet?
6 o'clock.
They meet kind
Oh,
of
Parks
early.
is earlier. I'm sorry. That's
5?
around 4.
Okay, that one, we may need to ask them to meet later.
Yeah, we'll-
because it's not,
we'll
I think they do
confirm.
meet very early, and that's not really reasonable to
Mhm.
expect people to be able to participate if they meet so early. So let's try to get that one.
Mayor, if I just may add something, Vice Mayor Fahet just, asked if an arborist looked at it. And I don't want to downplay CGA. CGA has a landscape architecture division, and they do landscape ordinances for municipalities, all of their clients. So they looked at it and they gave us valuable input. So I don't want anybody to think that we're kind of winging it or anything like that.
Right.
Professionals have looked at it. Now, I'm all in favor of asking for additional input, but I just wanted to make sure that was clear.
Well,
Okay.
I
Through the
think,
chair.
and what I wanted to mention, and give me just 1 minute, is just from this resident, some of the things that he brought up, which are comments, was that, I think in here, I didn't necessarily see that part that we say an arborist from a certain organization, but he's saying that there's actually another organization that certifies arborists, so we should include both because they're both equally. So those kind of little things that, perhaps fresh eyes, and I agree, I think CGA's oversight, having their arborists look at this is, I'm sure has been extremely beneficial. Yes, sir.
Yes, I just want to, first of all, thank you, Mayor, for raising this point. I think that this is a very important and comprehensive piece that we're working on, and getting some additional eyes on this is going to be nothing but helpful, even if it's a little redundant, but I think that's going to be, getting folks here, like you suggested, and some other folks, and certainly getting residents here who have a lot of interest and some of expertise. So I think I just want to commend you, and I support that effort.
Do you have something, Councilman?
Yeah,
I mean,
not-
Vice Mayor?
So Roger was saying that the arborists on staff, they have an in-house arborist at CGA, which that's great. I welcome their opinion. I wanted to know if we had one, because when we talked about it in the past, there was a kind of a succession plan after Tom left. And I know, Tom Nash, I mean, and I know that, getting back to being a Tree City USA, which I think everybody on this council would agree that is important
Yes.
to do. I know that requires that we have an arborist, so that's why I was asking.
Does that require that we have an arborist? We have an arborist on staff, contracted, right? So that
Contracted
doesn't,
arborist.
right, so that's consistent with, okay. And just to be clear, the arborist that we have with CGA is not the arborist that we have contracted, right? So we have 2 arborists looking at this, or at least CGA arborist, and we can ask for the, and one thing I'd like to mention is for the parks meeting, we should not be waiting. If we think of another agency, I'm thinking Neat Streets, and I don't know, that this should go to, that shouldn't be, that they attend the Parks Board meeting. It should just be sent to them and asked to, as a courtesy, if they would look it over and give us any comments, because they're professional organizations. I don't expect them to attend the Parks Board meeting and give us their input. But I think we can just send it to them by email and ask for their assistance, their, review. Yes,
Through
ma'am.
the chair. Roger, in your experience, have these organizations provided their time for free? I just want to see, I don't know if I don't really have experience with these agencies and if they're willing to do that.
I had to be very honest with you. I have not had an opportunity to interface with
Okay.
these organizations.
I know
Typically, I've had
university,
municipalities that are have in-house arborists that
Right.
were very passionate about it.
but I know the
just
University
my
of
personal
Florida Co-op Extension Program down in Homestead does it, very qualified individuals, and they provide it free of charge. And Dr. Fitzpatrick is with another organization that's just down the street from them. And I believe they do that too. So I'm thinking more organizations that,
To the chair.
yes, sir.
It's like you were saying earlier, Mr. Fitzpatrick mentioned right off the bat that there's an association that's mentioned in there that doesn't even exist. And then, of course, standard and practices are very important to certain organizations and how strict they are. Well, he mentioned that the National Arborist Association no longer exists. It's called
Right.
now Tree Care Industry Association.
And that was a term that had to be removed through our ordinance. So if it wasn't, then that should be removed.
Yep.
That would be considered today our boards and parkways. So that verbiage on the ordinance had to be changed.
Either way, I
Do
think
you
that
know
there's
what line? Well, we'll look at it. after.
617 and 618.
Yeah, that had to be removed.
Well, I just think also it's just, what are the standards and practices of different organizations out there that are well known, because this company could be the landscaping company that comes here and does a lot of work, but I'm not saying that they don't,
Well, and
but I like to see what their standards were and how do they get that license, because it seems like there's other ways of getting these licenses. It doesn't necessarily mean that we got the best,
No, and
business.
And I think what we're doing is just asking for, comments, just like we were doing from residents. And then the Parks Board and Councilwoman Bravo will relook at it and decide, basically what's doable, what makes sense, what, some things.
Through the chair, just for clarification on the residents' comment, that actually, if you look at the top, it says tree abuse prohibited. It says it shall be unlawful to abuse any protected or specimen trees located within the city of Miami Springs or any other trees located on city-owned or controlled property or right-of-way. A, the following acts shall constitute tree abuse. So these are just acts. So any acts that fall under these provisions, and in this case, they generalized here, number 9, any pruning in violation of the practices established by the National Arborist Association. That's just a national association. So if something happened here that was against this association, it's just like saying Tree City USA, they have like these standards. So we're kind of like we're kind of using this National Association Arborist Association as an item to look at if when in doubt, or to if we have a certain situation where we have a tree that's removed or it was rat hacked, what does the National Arborist Association consider that and where that instant falls? It's not saying that we have an arborist association.
Okay. Either way.
Okay.
It's not-
But yeah, I mean, I don't know if you guys want to approve on the first with all the
Yes,
amendments,
I
and
think
then
that
we'll.
that's
Yes,
possible.
this is what-
We don't have to finalize until all of this.
No,
is-
I didn't-
I think,
If I just may add, I didn't hear any amendments necessarily. What we will do, we will check with the University of Florida, the South Florida Extension out in Homestead, see if this is something that they do. Also, you mentioned Neat Streets. We
let's
can
reach out
maybe
to them.
to
They
see
provide
if
our
they can-
trees, so.
and see
grants.
if they have any input there. We'll take it back to the Parks and Parkways Board. And if there's any residents that want to assist, that specialize or an arborist or specialize in landscaping, that they want to,
Mhm.
provide recommendations or assistance, that's more than welcome.
Yeah, and we need a
So-
fee schedule. I mean, that
And the
is
fee schedule
crucial, because
will,
with this, without a fee schedule, it's
the
not.
fee schedule will come back
Yeah.
at second reading as a resolution, a companion resolution.
Yes, so I think we're all in agreement. We'll move it
Yes.
first reading because it's an excellent piece of work and, and it just now needs the massaging to,
Formalize everything.
yes, to finalize it. One thing I just wanted to mention in case I forget is where it says
What line,
um,
Mayor?
under, let's see, 602, the following actual shall constitute tree abuse. That's mentioned in a few places, but one of the things we don't mention, which I think I tend to see throughout the city sometimes, is nails, nailing something. So we should probably, because we're kind of
Yeah.
generalizing, saying, I think
Mhm.
putting nails or other sharp
Staples or
objects
anything.
We actually
into
have it
trees.
in our current ordinance where
Okay.
you're not allowed to even adhese a sign to the
Okay,
tree.
so
It's actually
maybe just
considered tree
specifying that
abuse.
because I can see somebody saying, well, that's not really injuring. It's not, or that
Oh,
nail.
no, but
hooks
yeah,
aren't
we
also.
actually had
it makes
signs
it-
taken down through that
Okay.
ordinance, not too long ago. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you again, Councilwoman.
No, thank you.
Parks Board.
Number 8.
Okay,
Great.
is there?
There you go.
Oh, thank you. Okay, I hadn't seen that. You're right, by nail staple. Okay, wonderful. All right, any more discussion? Call the vote?
Vice Mayor Fahet,
Yes.
Councilman Santeen,
Yes.
Councilwoman Bravo,
Yes.
Councilman Vasquez.
Yes.
Mayor Mitchell.
Yes.
The motion carries.
All right, wonderful. Then we move to item 11B,
We'll finalize it.
resolution.
Motion to approve.
I beg your pardon?
Motion to approve.
Okay, but let's,
For 11B?
We want to talk about it a little
Have
bit.
we want to talk about, we
Have
want,
all the discussion.
because we want the community to
Oh, I'm
to
sorry.
know
Be
about it,
aware.
hear it.
Sure.
It's,
Sorry.
okay.
You want to read, do you read the resolution first?
My apologies.
Well, especially because this is something
So
we've worked
excited.
with school board member Dan Espino, so I want to make sure that the community is aware of it.
A resolution of the City Council of the City of Miami Springs, Florida, approving a joint use agreement with the School Board of Miami-Dade County relating to the use of the hard court / basketball courts at Miami Springs Senior High School for recreational and educational purposes, providing for authorization and providing for an effective date.
Through the chair,
JC?
motion to approve. 11B.
Okay.
I'll second that.
All right.
Okay, now for discussion.
Okay,
No,
discussion, yes, okay.
We got the
JC,
first and
you
the
can
second.
explain it,
Okay.
yes.
So this has been something almost immediately upon my arrival here. It was a request the mayor, you had mentioned to me, you said, hey, let's see if we can strike an agreement with the school board to use Miami Springs. And just so happens that we had received a couple of emails asking, why can't we use it? Why can't we use it? And just last week received another one asking about using the outdoor basketball courts at Miami Springs High School. It just so happens that we also use the field at Miami Springs High School for flag football. And so this joint use agreement with the school board kind of allows us to do both. We worked with our school board member, Dan Espino, and he's huge on first of all, supporting the city and helping the city, but at the same time partnering with cities as a member of the school board to make best use of their facilities. So he's looking at other opportunities here in the city with the other schools that we have, because we have a number of them with playgrounds, others that may come in the future. But this one is the agreement for use of the outdoor basketball courts and also the field. So with that said, last week it went before the county committee, the school board committee. It passed that. We're here for approval, and then it goes to the school board meeting next week. And once they approve it next week, we just execute, and then we'll come back with or I'll work with staff to come up with the hours of operation, how we're gonna, open and close it, the things that we do for the other parks. So it'll be considered just another park.
Nice.
Thank you, JC. And yes, and if you remember, we've had parents speak before the council saying they would like to have outdoor basketball courts for their teens, their adolescents and teens, place to, and so we're very, very grateful to school board member Dan Espino, who also happens to be a Miami Springs resident, for working with us to make this happen, and also exploring other possibilities with these facilities that are right here in Miami Springs. So JC, thank you so much for making this happen. And Omar has always also been very instrumental in this. And of course, the school board member Espino and all of his staff, and the high school principal
school as well.
Nelson. We had meetings with the high school. But what I wanted to say is take a look at the courts. They are really nice.
They are.
They are in really good condition. These are top-notch courts that our residents will have access to. So I'm really excited about that.
Through the chair.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, you could tell my enthusiasm for, when folks talked about this, as you mentioned, I grew up on basketball courts and softball courts in the city of New York. And fortunately, because of the weather there, sometimes you have to do indoor, but the schools were okay with that. And I think it's just an added component to outdoor recreation, and as you all said, other opportunities for other kids, other ages, to other schools. I think it's excellent. I really appreciate Commissioner Espino's support on this, and the support of the school and the school district. So,
Through the chair.
Yes, ma'am.
Mayor, I want to thank you because I remember we brought this up in the beginning of time. We kept rehashing it, and you spearheaded this project. And these things take time. I mean, I think I started the tree ordinance a year ago, and she started with this venture a year and a half ago, I think. And I remember when we were talking about recreation and how, you know, all of us growing up here, we had access to Springview, we had access to Miami Springs High, and it gave us a nice chance. I mean, we don't have youth groups here. So that's a really nice opportunity to get the kids out there on weekends and family members on weekends, and you start, you know, getting to know your peers and just another outing. And I'm really excited, and I really think you just sticking your guns to this and making this happen for our community.
Well, thank
Bring back
you,
old
but
school Miami Springs a bit.
yes.
And the staff.
And
Dan and Dean on
JC
it.
and
Yes.
Dan and everyone there. It was certainly
It's a
collective
big
effort.
deal.
And you know what I really like about this is we continue to, as a whole, our city continues to increase the recreational opportunities and locations, and just facilitate making sure that, you know, anything that residents want to do in our city, we work really, really hard to make it available to them. So I think this is another step, and we look forward to working with the school system, with our school board member, Dan Espino, on other possibilities with the other facilities.
Through the chair, and it also relieves our park system from finding another solution, because this has been, you know, you obviously got the ball rolling, things that have been talked about for years when I was in the recreation. So it's just relieves others from finding a place for it. We know it's a need, so it's a great job.
It really is. And our parks will be, our park staff will be the ones, JC is
Take-
coordinating they'll open it, unlock it, and lock it, similar to the boat ramp and other facilities where they go by and,
It's
you know.
exactly what we do for the other ones. It'll
The other
just be
ones too.
part of the schedule.
It's great.
Okay, I do want to just make a note to our residents. You know, this is a privilege. It's not our facility. The school board is working with us to make it accessible to us.
Mhm.
Please be respectful of it, not just yourselves, but if you observe anything on there that, you know, is not in the best interest of our community, of the people using it, let us know. Reach out to the police, reach out to the city manager, reach out to the recreation department, reach out to any one of us on the council. You know, it takes a group effort for us to, and there's always, you know, one or two bad players that can make things difficult for everyone else. So because that's a little separate, isolated area from the other rec center, I just want to ask everyone to, you know, let us know if you see any issues. All right, thank you so much. Did we need to take a vote? Have we taken the vote yet?
We need a vote.
Okay, call the vote, please.
Vice Mayor Behet,
Yes.
Councilman Santeen,
Yes.
Councilwoman Bravo,
Yes.
Councilman Vasquez.
Yes.
Mayor Mitchell.
Yes.
The motion carries.
All right, thank you. And thank you, JC, for all the work and getting that to us.
My pleasure.
Okay, so we move to other business. The first item on there is my request to, we already discussed this at the last meeting, and we have to make a decision, probably this one, because as Heidi had told us, it takes time to prepare this, and if we
Yes.
want to get it on the ballot, so I'm going to simplify it. My request is for support from the council for our city attorney and our city clerk to work on putting it on the ballot for the November 2024 election, which all of our residents, or most of our residents, will be going because it's a presidential election, as to whether to change our council term, years of term for a term from 2 years to 4 years. And the reason for that, as I stated, the reasons I find are several. One of them is the cost. It's a large cost for the city to hold an election every 2 years. Most cities do not hold elections every 2 years. They hold them every 4 years. The other thing is staff time. It's not just the cost, it's the drain on staff time. And it's not just the city clerk's office, it's all of the staff, JC, our city manager, our assistant city manager, and all of the departments getting ready for, you know, what changes may take place, and then helping whoever is new on the council to get on board. So it's a drain on our staff. And the third thing is that I think because right now we have elections every 2 years, there's always a change in the council, or for the majority of the time, there's a change in the council. So it doesn't allow the council members a very long opportunity, or reasonably long enough opportunity, to work together to bring projects up and to work them out and try to get them resolved. If we're always, every 18 months, there's a new election coming along. So for those reasons, I would like to suggest that we put it on the ballot. All this is putting it on the ballot for our residents to decide if they want to go to 4-year terms from 2-year terms. That's all it is. We're not voting to switch ourselves.
Through the chair.
Yes,
Just
sir.
wanted to add an amendment, but while maintaining an 8-year term limit. In other words.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Maintaining, still, it would be 8 years. So it would be 2 4-year terms or any combination. And as I discussed at the last meeting, the glitch would be this next election where, I am termed out. So this is my final term. I'm termed out. I'm completing my 8th year. But for the other council members, if you choose to run again, and if you're elected, there's a little adjustments that would have to, and they apply kind of individually depending on where you are. But we discussed this at the last meeting, and I think, and I know speaking with JC and with Heidi and with Erica, they can be easily addressed. And then from there on, it would be the 4-year terms for everyone.
Through the chair on that question. So just, we would have to do some resolutions on particular cases. just
Yes.
to Make sure that it's even for everyone.
Well, it wouldn't be exactly even. There would be some
Or some allowance.
some adjustments
Adjustments, yeah.
this next time based on where each of you are. If you decide to run again and if you're elected again, there would be some adjustments that would be made this one time to kind of
Understood.
get us all.
Understood.
Okay.
Through the chair.
Yes. ma'am.
Mayor, thank you for the list that was provided by staff Roger. I see here that in all the, I don't know, at least 15 cities, 20 cities here, all of them are staggering terms. So I see that they have longer terms. They have 4 years, right? But with the 4 years, I'm seeing a commonality of it, that it's staggered. So a staggered, I looked into it because since I'm not too much of into the politics and like how I'm just here, right? I ran, I'm here, and I know how this works. So I understand that we want to maintain some sort of consistency, and maybe not everybody at the same time have to step down. So maybe that's why we have the staggering, right? So maybe, we run again, but, Vasquez, Walter, and Santine stay, me and Maria go. So I don't mind having that sort of type of consistency, but I don't know. I don't know if I feel comfortable, and I get what you're saying with the projects and executing, but I really do think, me personally, it's just my personal opinion, I do think that you could get things done. Is 2 years fast? It is, but it's what comes with its situation. So for me, okay, if we want to extend it to 4 years, but I'm not too gung-ho about the 2 terms. So right now we have 2 years, we run again. If you get elected again, you have 2 years, so that's 4. So maybe you want to do 4, but it's not committed to 2-year terms, because I think 8 years, and it could be a good person, it could be not such a great person, but I feel that we're giving a lot of thread to something that I don't feel comfortable with in such a small city. Maybe I'm noticing here the bigger, a lot of these cities have a population of more than 25 to 30,000 people, and we're here at about 14,000. So I'm thinking, I don't know if that's connected to how these elections are working. I'm willing to entertain some changes, but with some staggering terms. If we're really concerned about everybody stepping down, maybe we could do 2 with staggered, or even 3 or 4. But if that's what we're concerned about, of just having new people, and everything has a learning curve. I mean, I think it's how much you want it, how much you want to get into it. And at the end of the day, it's the time that you have. So that time will give you that leverage to dive into city work and learn everything that you need to do. Everybody is different, right? Like the way I dive in, maybe somebody maybe not dive in, and it comes to time and dedication I mean, I learned a lot. I mean, this is a business. So if you want to dive in deep and you want to learn, you'll learn it as quick as you need to get your stuff done, right? If you have plans that you want to execute for your city and missions, I respect Mayor and her position on this, and I totally get it. I mean, these things take time. But I don't know if if changing terms actually affects the quality of somebody's actual work, even if it's something that needs to be executed or not. I don't know how to explain it any better. I'm just trying to have a hard time.
I'm trying to understand, but you're saying that you think staggered terms
Maybe
would be
better.
beneficial. And the reason that I'm not for the staggered terms is that it doesn't address the issue of every 2 years. We're still going through an election every 2 years. The city's going through the expense of it. The staff is going through the expense. There's that. So if we're going to do staggered terms, we're basically not changing anything up.
Right.
So
We-
that's my reasoning for not supporting the staggered terms.
Through the chair.
Yes, sir.
I understand your concerns. You know, and the fact that, you know, maybe you don't want to keep someone for 2 4-year terms. We've had members on this council who have only served two terms. Right? We've had some members who didn't serve all.
Had some that served 1 term.
1 term. So, you know, and so, you know, it doesn't change that dynamic. I'm with the mayor on, you know, the staggering. It sounds good in principle, but you still have to have the elections every 2 years and decide if it's going to be 2 council members or is the mayor on you know, that adds that complication to it. But I understand the principle of what you're saying.
Mayor.
Yes, sir.
So I know that, somebody mentioned there were 15. This is, by my count, this is every municipality in Miami-Dade County.
Sorry, I didn't count. Oh, I didn't know that.
So this is every municipality in Miami-Dade County
Okay.
and Miami-Dade.
And there was no
Okay.
title here, so. I
You'd
don't know.
like,
Including Miami-Dade. That's why there's 35. So it's
Correct.
So 35,
34
all 35.
plus Miami-Dade
35 of
County.
them.
yes.
And just to note that outside of Miami Springs, only Surfside and El Portal have 2-year terms. By looking at,
Staggered terms.
If you'd like,
Staggered.
Not staggered.
no.
just to summarize, because I went through these quite in depth. You're absolutely right that the only ones that have 2-year terms,
Us, Surfside and El Portal.
right. In terms of staggering, I did find that most cities have 4-year terms and will have pure staggering. In other words,
Mhm.
4-year terms
Mhm.
off cycles. There are some cities that have a hybrid approach, where the mayor is 2-year term, so that's separate from the council, but they're staggered. And then I also found that there are a couple of cities, and they're kind of unique, where the 2 highest council members will get 4-year terms, and then the 2
Right.
lowest will
I think
get,
that's Fiji.
I
yes.
think that's a good idea.
Right, Fiji Gardens.
Miami Shores, I think, have.
Miami Shores.
Yes, and there's also another one where whoever receives the most amount of voted ballots is the actual mayor.
That's Miami Shores.
Miami Shores? Yeah.
Yep.
It's they get creative, huh?
Roger, as far as placing it on the ballot, what are the choices? You know, can it be amendment item that, you know, says, you know, do you want staggered terms like we did? And I'm trying to think when we did recently where we were kind of cleaning up the
Yes.
elections, right? There were several choices. There were several different things. And I think most of them passed and one of them didn't.
We could certainly have a 4-year term staggered option, 4-year term not staggered. It just depends on what the council would like to propose. I would.
Through the chair, the staggered would mean that 2 seats would have to sacrifice a 2-year term to actually get the ball rolling. So if you wrote it on the ballot, staggered, in theory, would not, unless you specifically say seat 1 and 5 or, you know, 4, I'm saying.
There are different ways of accomplishing staggering. I know that in Pinecrest, for example, the mayor ended up having a 6-year term to initiate the
Got it.
staggering. That's the opposite direction of what
Right.
you initially suggested, which is shortening. And then there's ways of, for example, highest vote getters will get the 4-year, the 4-year terms initially, then 2 will get 2. just the first time to implement the staggering. So there's multiple ways.
But have you put that in the ballot and you say staggered and that gets voted in as staggered, then the options that you just mentioned would have to also be
The,
public vote or no?
and correct me if I'm wrong, Roger, the way the, on the ballot, it's gonna be a yes or no question. It's gonna say, shall the charter be amended to blank? And you have to, the council has to decide at that, I mean, before that, obviously, if you want to do 4-year terms and staggered, or just 4-year terms and keep it at the same time. So it's a yes or no question, and you have to, if you, depending on what you guys decide tonight, we would have to prepare the ballot language that would come before you guys and would have to get approved. And I'm not sure if it's by resolution or by ordinance,
By resolution.
by resolution, that it would have to
Call
be
for the election.
to call for the election with the ballot language. So you guys would have, right, I mean, today, ideally, you would decide which direction you would want to go, if any direction. If you guys say, no, we'll keep it the same, then
Well, let me just say, if we're going to staggering, and I'm asking, unless somebody is seeing it differently and maybe I'm missing something, if we're going to staggering, we're basically not changing anything other, right? Because we're having 2-year elections.
Well-
I mean, it's still a 4-year, someone would serve 4 years, but in the sense of the 2-year elections of not having that mix, we're not changing anything. Erica, do you know about how much it costs to put this on the ballot for November?
The question?
Yes.
If it's running along with the county election, it's nominal. I'm gonna estimate around probably $6,000, less than
Okay.
that, probably. It's just one question, so.
But it would allow someone to, if we do staggering, it does allow someone who's 4 years to concentrate on 4 years of, not every 18 months, getting ready for another election. And I understand, Councilwoman, what you're saying, if they're not they're not doing a good job, but I think when you vote someone in, you do a leap of faith that you hope that that their intentions are good, that they're devoting themselves to the city, like as we all are.
But if
I mean, if someone is
Is-
bad enough, there can be a
recall.
recall and, I mean,
if they're horrible, if somebody is horrible.
but I mean, if they get elected, that is, that's the residents that voted for them. So if that person gets elected, it's in the eye of the beholder whether or not they're good or bad, but that's the.
Sure.
the residents
And
vote.
at the end of the day, and I'm sorry.
That's right. Yeah.
And at the end of the day, what you're asking is, you're asking the residents if they want 4 2-year terms. We're not saying we're going to do 4-year terms. You're asking the question if they want it. So if they say yes, they accept that. They accept what comes along with that. And I mean, I would say, based on the information Roger provided, most cities have 4-year terms.
And staggered.
So,
Through the mayor.
And staggered. But if staggered is
Yes.
causing a heartache, then
Right, but at the end of the day, my point is, if the question is simple, yes or no, and you put 4-year terms, no staggering, 4-year terms, staggering, then the process to be staggered, there's a process, whether we talked about the 6-year or 2 seats being 2 years. Now, where does that get voted in?
And
Does it have to be a
well,
part?
I
no,
just want to
well-
say that the reason that I'm bringing it up is one of the benefits is to allow a council, the 4 years to work together. So the staggering defeats that. The staggering, has an election every 2 years. So there's a cost involved, there's a staff time involved. So personally, I don't see any reason to change if we're going to go to staggering. You know what I'm saying? We're basically getting the same thing, just a little bit of mix up, but and one of the things that I find from our residents is that because we have elections every 2 years, sometimes there tends to be, oh, they're no longer on the council. I thought, it's because every 2 years it's kind of switching. So just respectfully, I'm saying I don't see any reason to put it on the ballot to go through the whole, if we're talking about staggering, because basically since we have elections every 2 years, the staggering is a reason to have that is because you have people for 4 years perhaps, but if we're having elections every 2 years, there's always the potential for, a change every 2 years, and we might as well keep it the way it is.
Through the mayor. Also, and my concern is, I mean, one thing, me as being as a resident, when I wanted to run for council, I knew that at least I could commit to 2 years because I'm not a quitter. And I will, even if I'm tired right now, I'm gonna finish my term. And I think that asking, not everybody's built the same, right? But I think 2 years is more of approachable and more attainable. And I just don't want to scare away potential good people that could probably get voted in twice every 2 years versus getting somebody to run for 4 years. And then when you have 4 years, you have more possibilities of anything, right? Anything can happen, but it is time because it's draining. It's a lot of work. And I think it's worked for the city, I think, for quite some time. And I do understand your point 100%, but I can't guarantee this council for another 8 years, right? But I think it's a little intimidating to put 4 years out there. That's just me. I want to make sure that, hey, they have 2 years. And I mean, if you can't complete 2 years, maybe you shouldn't consider to run, but at least get your hands wet. If you like it, then run and run harder, right? And work hard your first 2 years. I think 4 years, I would have been like, oh, I don't know. Me, that's my opinion, not just me.
Yes, sir.
So when I spoke, in preparing for this meeting, there were two things, and I was told that they were gonna ask staff to provide this. There were two things that were gonna be important information for me. One, what are the other municipalities in the county doing? Because when I see that everybody but two other people are doing something, or not doing what we're doing, that's usually a signal to me that you're either smarter than everybody else or you're doing something that isn't as efficient, because that's what other municipalities. But the other thing that I wanted information about, that I was told was going to be provided, is information about the cost. So because I don't want to put you on the spot and tell you, but I wanted to know, how much does it cost to have a standalone election in April versus piggybacking on a county election in November? And the reason I say that, and I know that we had a debate about whether with the political climate, what are the detractors to running on a county on a November election, because it makes it more politically charged? And I actually pushed back against you, Mayor, and said that, like, I'd rather have the voter turnout because, the political climate is what it is. And then I had some people that have a lot of experience running, and they told me, like, have you ever run in a November election? It's like, you have no idea how politically charged it gets to run a November election. And so that, so I was taken aback. But what reason I bring this up, if a standalone April election costs X, and then running it piggybacking with a November county election is cheaper, right? Because if staggering it means that you lose the cost savings, then I'm with you. Then why are we doing it? But if it's significantly cheaper to piggyback on the county election, then maybe having it staggered in November is going to provide a cost savings in the long run over having it once every, doing it in April. So that was the information I was told that was also going to be provided to us, is what's the number? What's it costing us to do it every 2 years, standalone in April? What would it cost to do it in November? And if we did it staggered, but in November, would it ultimately be a cost savings because it's less costly to do it piggybacking in November versus doing it standalone? And I do want to add that the National Civic League publishes the Model City Charter. So this is co-chaired by the National League of Cities, the International City Management Association, the American Society for Public Administration, and the National Civic League. And they basically do, as the title says, it's a model city charter. And it's basically recommendations that say, like, hey, this is, these are our recommendations for the things to have in your charter in order to best achieve the highest level of governmental performance. And the model recommends 4-year staggered terms. And it says, under this approach, elections of council members take place every 2 years. In the 7th edition, because they're on their 9th edition. They say they do have the model, a concurrent model, which is where you do it every 4 rather than every 2. That's given as an alternative, but that a strong majority of cities have chosen staggered terms over concurrent terms to avoid dramatic changes in council composition at each election. So not only do almost all municipalities in the county have 4-year terms. Only we and Surfside and El Portal have 2-year terms, but the model city charter 9th edition is saying, pretty much what the county is saying. This is what, and very, very, very few municipalities do it how we do it. And to me, that's like a signal, like maybe you should rethink how you're doing things. But again, if cost savings is a big part of why we're doing it and savings of work for staff, to me, it's a matter of, well, what's it cost? How much are we saving by doing it concurrent? And how much are we saving if we try to stagger it, but do it piggybacked in November? And then I feel like that's where we can make the decision. But to me, I feel like 4 years is what basically the default that everybody does. And I don't see a reason why we would continue to do it 2-year when we're seeing what all the recommendations and everybody else is doing.
So, excuse me, Vice Mayor, to answer your question, our last election cost came at 30,000. That's only county cost. That does not include advertising and the banners, and so that's an additional approximately 5,000. So you're looking around $35,000 for a standalone election.
Every 2 years.
Correct. Then the last piggyback, which we did for your election in 2020, came under $5,000.
Mine was in August. That wasn't a November election.
It was a
right?
primary.
It was okay. So it was a primary election.
It was a primary election that came just under $5,000, and I added about another 5,000 for the required advertising and whatnot. So you're looking at about under $10,000 for a piggyback with
So
the
that's like
county.
it's 60% cheaper to do it piggybacked with the county, it seems like. So like 35 versus 10.
10.
So to me, it seems like that's, if cost savings is a reason to do it,
But-
other than because everybody else is doing it this way and it's what's recommended. I think if cost savings is what we're looking for, I feel like if we're gonna stagger it, it should be piggybacked on the county election.
Are we
Political
saying the
climate,
county
yeah.
election, the primary in August, or
That's
the November?
primary.
When you're saying Vice Mayor, when you're saying the county election, are you saying the primary?
Or any, I
Or
mean,
the
I would
November.
assume there isn't always a primary every year
Right.
in August, right? So I would assume if we're piggybacking on a county, there's always an election in November.
Correct.
So I'm assuming we would piggyback on the county election
In
in the
November.
fall, which typically is in November. And if we're saving 2/3 of the cost, I think that's a reason to do it.
Through the chair.
Something to keep in mind with that, with the county election and in my years here, this is my 8th year, so I've given it a lot of thought, as we all do, of just trying to, I know we're always trying to tackle difficult things, but also smooth the path for the city, make it a little bit, where we see that things could be perhaps, or at least we want to raise the discussion of things that we think perhaps could be worked out so that it works better in the future. One of the things that I believe with the county, with our election in April, is it allows our residents to concentrate on our issues. They're very focused, the ones that vote, and yes, it's not as big a turnout as in November. However, the election is based on issues for our city, and it's a very clear effort on the part of our residents, on the part of, our candidates to address those issues. And it's nonpartisan. And we all have our parties, we all feel very strongly about our parties, but the majority of issues that impact our city are not party issues. They're decisions that we have to make, very difficult decisions sometimes, based on what we think is in the best interest of our community right now, but also looking at the future. And when we are able to have an election that's not part of the November primary, we definitely focus on that. I don't think that that's the case in November, not just because of the partisanship, but because there's so many other issues, on the national level and on the state level that are being discussed that really, the things that we're concerned with for our city, just don't seem
as important or don't get the attention. They're drowned out by the other noise.
To the chair, I agree with you, Mayor, on that. I'd like to, even though it costs more, but you know what? The city's giving money away here and there, here and there. You know where I'm coming from. So I would agree to just keep it as an April election and just focus on, if it costs us, it costs us. That's what it takes to run a city. And all the external locomotions and it's charged. You just said it, it's charged. So you want people to focus on you and your quality and what you bring to the city, or you and everybody else that's just like, associated, and it's just money. I don't think is an issue. I don't think we should be looking at that as the issue. I think it's the term and what we have. What do we want to do?
I would add that if we're going to stay standalone, then I would say to keep it as it says in the Small City Charter, which is an alternative that they have, is to just keep it concurrent, because we have people here that have been running for office at the same time that you're serving, or you're being challenged. If you're up every 2 years and somebody challenges you, or if you're running for another office, then you can't help but be somewhat distracted, because you've got a campaign at the same time that you are legislating. So if that's the case, then if we go to 4-year terms, then let's keep it. And if we keep it standalone, then let's keep it concurrent, so that at least we could as a council focus on the goals that we have, the business attached, what we're getting elected to do, which is, and then and at the end of those 4 years, then you all go up for election, but at least it gives you the continuity and the cost savings.
Yeah,
Councilman?
through chair, I was one of the ones that, along with what Vice Mayor was saying about, running concurrent with county elections for the turnout and stuff like that. But I think as I'm listening to the conversation, first of all, we're talking about a change in November that will impact our next election. In other words, we're talking about keeping our April election, and I would rather do that, keeping our April date 4 years, right? Which still saves us some money. So, because over the next 4 years, we'd have less elections, so we still save some money there. So that would be my position right now. 4-year terms, everyone, starting with the April election of 2025. And the 8-year term limits.
Yes, which total of 8 years term limits,
Correct.
knowing that we have to make some adjustments.
Yes, yes, yes.
If it goes through, if the residents vote on it, there would have to be some adjustments for the current council, should they choose to run again and should they be elected.
And just so you know, Mayor, if it does go to the ballot and the residents vote for it in favor of this change, then the enacting legislation would come afterward. And that's where we would iron out, and correct me if I'm wrong, Roger, we would iron out how it
Yes,
gets
yes.
implemented.
Right.
So that's just for your information.
Okay, so Roger, do we need a vote for this, a consensus? What do you need to see who's on board, how the council?
Just because I sense that there's not necessarily uniform agreement, I would appreciate a
A
motion
motion, okay,
directing our staff.
okay. Is there a motion? And again, we
No,
can,
I didn't.
listen,
but
I want to state, we can leave things the way they are. As you know, this doesn't impact me in any way. It's just a thought that I wanted to bring before the council. I thought this was a good time to, and Councilwoman, I agree with you with the 2-year terms. For me personally, it has been much easier to make a commitment for 2 years each time, even though I've done it 4 times, than for 4 years, So I've never really had a problem with the 2-year terms. But
Well, I'm sorry.
no, go ahead. So
No, I was just-
again, we can leave it. We don't have to have a motion. We can leave things the way they are, and it doesn't have to go on the ballot either.
No. I thought you seem to have made a motion, and I made an amendment to your motion. You did
she
make,
didn't make a
you can't make the motion?
I can't make a
No.
motion.
Okay, then I'll
We
make,
have to pass the gavel to the vice mayor, but no, I'm not making a motion.
no,
It's,
I'd like to make the motion the mayor made, which was the changing to 4-year terms, beginning with the next election. And with the limits concurrent, and 8-year term limits. I mean, that's basically the change that we're making, beginning with our 2025 April election.
Is there a second? The motion dies. All right, thank you. We move on. Oh, I thought,
It'll be just an active utility. That's how.
oh, I didn't hear you do a second.
Well, no, I was leaning, but.
I'm sorry. All right,
Second.
okay.
Oh, thank you, Vice Mayor.
Any discussion? Call a vote, please.
Vice Mayor Fahet,
Yes.
Councilman Santeen,
No.
Councilwoman Bravo,
No,
Councilman Vasquez,
Yes,
Mayor Mitchell.
Yes.
The motion carries 3-2.
And this is just to put it on the ballot. I want to make sure nobody gets the wrong. We're putting it on the ballot for residents to decide in November. If they vote not to do this, we stay the way we are.
One minor
Yes, sir.
comment. We will prepare a resolution as directed and bring it forward to this council to call that election. And then the
Thank you.
ballot will be presented.
through the chair, question.
Yes, sir.
For adoption, it has to be a majority or
For adoption by the council
Yes.
of calling the election, it must be, yes, a majority.
a majority? Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we'll move to the next agenda item, which is 12B, and that is just since JC has come on board, we've been discussing where we can bring in more revenues for the city. As you know, our expenses continue to spiral upwards this past year, inflation, labor costs, materials costs, and all these things. And we've been discussing possible ways to increase our city revenues, and I've asked him to look and see what opportunities we may be missing that other cities have been implementing, and one of those is impact fees, and that's for development, for new development. So I'll let JC talk about that.
Yes, Mayor, thank you. One of the questions I had now that we're exploring reinvigorating 36th Street and the Abraham tract is, do we have impact fees? Do we charge impact fees on new development? And the answer I received that, not to my knowledge, do we have impact fees there? Are we charging impact fees? And the point of an impact fee is you charge a developer a fee for the impact that project has on your community services. So I've seen cities charge a public safety impact fee. I've seen them for public buildings. I've seen them for parks and rec and stormwater. I think those are the 4 big ones that I've seen cities charge. You don't have to charge them all. You can charge, stormwater and public safety. But it's an option that the city has. We would, if the council wants to go that route, we would need to select or find a consultant. They have to do the study on how we're going to, the formula that we're going to charge, how we're going to, charge for the impact fee, whether it's, per unit or however it is that they formulate the formula. I'd have to bring that back for approval, so that they can do that. Legally, it's required. It's up to the council if you guys want. I would recommend exploring it, because once we get that area rezoned, there may be some interest of people coming in, hey, I'd like to build something there on 36th Street. And it's going to have an impact on our services. So might as well charge them, and it has no impact on the residents whatsoever.
Through the chair.
Yes, sir.
I think it's long overdue. It's that I know we haven't really thought much about any redevelopment, so I guess it wasn't something that we wanted to even, but every city does it. City of Hialeah, Medley, every single city does this. And of course, like JC was saying, there's a fee for, park and rec, police, streets, transit, administrative. It's just the cost of doing business. It's normal. You're not deterring anybody from considering. It's just normal business everywhere in this county. So I'm glad that we are discussing it.
to the mayor. This is for clarification, impact fees for commercial and retail development.
And well, it could be,
Mm.
I'd have to look at the statute to see exactly what it is, but you know, what falls under it. But I think hotels are part of that. Obviously
Okay, let me make it
residential,
easier for you. Will this
residential.
impact single family housing?
No,
Why not?
not single family homes.
Why not?
It's not usually charged on single family homes that I know. that I
Oh,
know
vacant
of.
lot
Well, we get,
is not?
I built my house and I paid a lot of fees already. I don't know if I want to add that one.
I'm just saying on a vacant lot, you get credit. If you have an existing building, you get credit based on the square footage of the building that you have.
If it's a, let me put it this way, if it is a multifamily,
Right.
yes, of course. If it is a, let's say a planned community, let's say like Lennar Homes, they buy a bunch and they build like 50 homes. Yes, I've seen that as well. But single family homes, a resident comes in, buys a lot and they just build it. No, there isn't. And so I don't know if Roger has.
Look, and the manager said this very early on. Impact fees are very dependent on the studying that needs to be conducted by consultant. Takes time. I don't want to comment as to what a consultant may or may not determine as necessary impact fees. There are standards. If we're directed, we'll look into that. But in general, I from my experience, which is not very much, I see what the manager is saying, which is generally speaking, single family homes that are already constructed are going to be required to pay any impact fees. Now, whether there's a developer like Lennar Homes, like the manager was saying, that comes in with, you know, new residential construction.
And I'm not saying that's going to happen. I'm just using that as an example of
Correct.
how you see it, that in a single family home situation, because they'll build, you know, like out west Pines, when those West Pembroke Pines, when those communities are built, there's a huge impact because they're building hundreds of homes. So that is where you would see that happen.
Through the chair, I'm sorry, I disagree. I apologize, but JC, but because I see it all the time. Residentials do get Hialeah, Medley.
Yeah, and maybe
So
maybe so.
we
I
got
just
the
haven't-
Optimist Club. It's gonna have 4 single family houses. There wasn't any existing single family houses there. So we're losing out on impact fees that,
Councilman, you know what?
I'm just saying
I'm not-
residential
I'm
does get,
not offended at
feel
all.
pretty confident that single family development, especially on a vacant lot. Of course, it was an existing property. How it works, you get credit based on the square footage of the existing home or house.
Then I'll
Usually offsets pretty much a lot of it.
no problem. I can.
But on a vacant lot,
If the council agrees, I can get those answers, those questions answered and speak to a consultant so that they can guide us in that direction.
And what, just to be clear, JC, what we're asking here, what you're asking for is consensus to explore
Yes.
how much it would cost to hire a consultant, because this,
To
from
provide
what
staff.
you and Roger have said, this is a study that needs, we can't just say we're going to charge this much, you know, like off the top of
Correct.
our head, we're going to charge this much for police for an impact fee and this much for roads. It has to be a study in order for us to legally be able to do it. So this is just to explore how much it would be to do as a study. And then you would come before the council and we would
Correct.
decide where to do that. But
Yeah.
if we are talking about redevelopment and, you know, code changes and all these things of promoting business and economic development in certain areas of the city, particularly that southeast area, I think that this makes sense
Yeah.
for us to explore it.
definitely
Yeah, I agree.
long overdue.
I agree, especially with our high density areas. I couldn't, but I can't. Thank you for bringing this up. I didn't know we didn't have any impact fees on that.
So do we have a motion?
A motion to
Second the motion.
Just to give me the
To-
direction
to-
to.
explore.
back
Direction.
exploring
Explore.
this.
Second.
Okay,
You made the motion?
yes,
Hold
All
on,
right.
Mayor, hold on.
Oh, yeah, okay.
all right, any discussion? Call the vote, please.
Vice Mayor Fahet,
Yes.
Councilman Santeen,
Yes.
Councilwoman Bravo,
Yes.
Councilman Vasquez.
Yes.
Mayor Mitchell.
Yes,
So motion carries.
all right,
I just
thank
think
you,
it's
JC. Yes,
important To say that, along with this study, this initial study, it'll tell us where we have the ability to apply some of these, impact fees.
Correct.
Then you'll need another study to really drill down on the particular impact fees. because it's gonna be a major.
Well,
And
let me,
and not one study is gonna tell you every
Right.
fee that you can charge for all.
Oh, yeah,
the
no.
Broader
Right.
area,
Let me have
broader
the-
range. So what I'm
Okay.
saying is
Itemized
this
fees.
study,
let me have the conversation and we'll come back.
All right, thank you, JC and Tammy and Roger. Okay, so we'll move to the next agenda item, which is 12C, and that is just, and Erica, if we could have that on the screen, my
Brian?
photos.
Yeah.
A few years ago, about 3 years ago, some of you may remember, I was riding my bike on a Sunday morning around my block, and I was hit by my neighbor's car. He was pulling out of his driveway. I couldn't see him. He couldn't see me because the hedge was very, very high, right there up to the sidewalk in his driveway. By the grace of God, I was knocked. He hit my front wheel of my bike and knocked me into the swale. And although I got very banged and bruised, I sliced up my hand. My hand was sliced by my bike, which was mangled. But it, it could have been so much worse. So I was very grateful. My neighbor was so traumatized by the incident that he, even though I told him, look, the hedge just needs to be lower and back more. 2 days later, he pulled out the entire hedge that went all the way. He was just so traumatized by the whole incident. And this is the kind of situation where, you know what? It doesn't matter who's right or wrong. It's just the consequences are so serious. It's a moving violation because you're moving into the public right of way. We have that situation throughout the city. And just this past week, after that happened, I was on, when I came to the next city council meeting, I asked our code enforcement officers to enforce the codes that we have about hedges in the front yard and ensuring that there is visibility for pedestrians, people using the sidewalks, and for the people using their driveways. Because these things are best prevented when both of you can see each other. I'm looking at it, doesn't, if I see somebody that is running a red light, it doesn't matter that I have the green light. I stop and avoid getting hit, right? It's defensive actions is what prevents those things. And that means that, on both sides, we have to be able to see each other. So anyway, after that happened, I asked our code enforcement to enforce the hedges wherever there's a visibility issue pertaining to a driveway. And this past week, a resident reached out to me and said he was jogging, that he jogs very often, and he was practically almost hit by a vehicle pulling out of a driveway, one of his neighbors pulling out of the driveway who didn't see him because the hedge was so high and he couldn't see the hedge. So I've got some photos here just of the springs, and you can see these kind of situations. I think it's easier, picture tells 1,000 words. You can see here, there's a driveway on both sides of those palm trees. This is not a hedge, it's actually palm trees, but you see the nearness. So if you're walking on the sidewalk on either one of those, and God forbid, if you're walking and you're pushing, I was hit, the front wheel of my bike is what was hit and knocked me out toward the swale. But if I had been pushing a stroller, the stroller would have been hit. If a lot of residents ride with their kids and bikes, and you let them ride their bike in front of you and you're riding behind them, the child would have been hit on his bike. So if you look at these situations, these are ones that I took photos of throughout the springs, and you can see with the sidewalks right there and the height of the hedges, the chances are this will happen. This is another one. See the height of the hedge, and there's a driveway actually on both sides of that hedge. And that's another one right up to the street.
Can you hold that there for a second, please?
Surely.
Because that's similar to what my neighbor, when I bought the house, it was already there. So it was
Mhm.
right in the middle between us. And I remember this conversation, and I called the city and asked someone to come out. It was a little bit lower than that, but my neighbor and I agree, we would push it back. I think it was 4 feet.
Yes.
4 or 5 feet. And we both paid for it, and that's clear.
Trimmed it back.
Yeah.
And all it is you don't have to take out the entire hedge in your front
Yeah.
yard. It's
Mhm.
where that is that visibility issue, that you're near a driveway and the hedge is tall. Trim it down. Our code is not as clear as it could be. So one of the things that I'm going to ask, and these are just more pictures that you can see over and over, what are the chances of, or a child riding their bike or walking, or the family walking together and you're talking? You know, we actively promote ourselves as a pedestrian-friendly, bicycle-friendly community, and making sure that that it's safe, that we avoid these situations is imperative. So the next set of, okay, this is the next one. These are examples of, those ones that I showed you are ones of, this is example of how it can be controlled. And you can see all it is just not having the hedge up to the sidewalk, having it lower. And these are just, and this is a lower hedge. It goes all the way to the street, but it's lower, so there's good visibility. That one too, you can see the hedges is higher, but it's pushed back 4 feet or more. So it allows that ability. This one is a lower one. You can see over it, you know, a car moving would be, if a pedestrian's coming from the left, they would see a vehicle pulling out. And this one too, you can see the hedge is way back from the street. In some cases in the city where we don't have sidewalks, you know, people are walking on the streets. So all I'm going to ask, and this is another one of the hedges there, but it's not right up to the street. I want to let our residents know, I've asked code enforcement to start enforcing this. If residents think that, you know, that we, or that I am telling them what to do with their front yard, the way I see it is we are preventing you from a tragic emotional and financial experience that you will likely never recover from if you're pulling out of your driveway and you hit someone. So let's not wait for that to happen. Look at your yard. I know it's maintenance, so it takes, you know, the hedge starts growing, you got to cut it back down, just like we got to mow our lawn. If you see your neighbor's yard and you see this situation, talk to them nicely and just say, listen, you know, the city's really enforcing, trying to make visibility, please cut it down. You know, we don't have to wait for code enforcement to come by. But what I am going to ask is that code enforcement really evaluate these conditions when there's a driveway nearby or it impacts visibility, and cite. At first, I'd like to give a month of awareness of just, I'm asking our public information officer to do an awareness campaign to let people know that we're looking for this, to look at your yard and start trimming it back before we start issuing citations. But one of the things that I wanted to ask from the council is our code on this could use a little tweaking as to, like, for instance, it says 3.5-foot fences. Nobody has a 3.5-foot fence. They have a 4-foot fence. It says it shouldn't impede visibility, but it's clearer if we just say, you know, 4 feet, no taller than 4 feet, maintain 4 feet clearance from driveways, and, you know, cut back 4 feet from the. So I'd like to ask the council, with your consensus, I would work with our city staff to kind of tweak that and bring it back. It's not a complicated ordinance, codes, and just, you know, tweak that so that we're all on the same page and it's easier to enforce, but it's also easier for our residents to understand.
Yeah. Keep it simple.
Okay?
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Do I have consensus with everyone? I'll bring it back, just kind of clarifying.
To the mayor, did
Yes,
you
sir.
want to
Yes,
add
ma'am.
in to change or add verbiage to the ordinance as far as the hedge front setback? Because right now I'm reading and we only have height maximum permitted, right? But that's not taking care of the actual front yard clearance.
Yes, and
So
so that's what I'd
You
like to
provided a
ask.
good example there
is
of it
for-
looks like at least 3.5, minimum 3 or 4 foot setback from the sidewalk.
And I think for simplicity, Councilwoman, would be 444. We're talking about no higher than 4 feet in the front, 4 feet back from where the walkway would be, which would be a sidewalk if there's a sidewalk,
Or
but
the
if
street.
there's no sidewalk, it would be the street, 4 feet back clearance, and then 4 feet on either side of it if there's a driveway. You know, if there's not a driveway, well, let me make
It's
one other
missing verbiage.
mention with that. In some cases, we have our codes say that you cannot park a car in your grass. You can park it in swale, but not in your grass. And I know code enforcement is going around and enforcing that too. If you have a driveway set up, you park in the driveway. If you don't have a driveway, you just can't pull up into your yard. And this falls into that also, and code enforcement is enforcing this, is it's not just unsightly. It doesn't turn, there's a lot of reasons for it. First of all, it looks horrible. All these cars parked up in front of, by your front door when there's no driveway, it ruins the grass. But it also doesn't allow us from a safety perspective. If you're walking on a sidewalk, we all, tell each other, look out for driveways, look out for intersections, right? If people are pulling in and out of their grassy area, then you wouldn't be looking out for a driveway because you wouldn't be expecting them to pull out. So that's important too. But
Let's make
what
it-
I'd like to correct is that the 4, 4, and 4 of, that makes it very simple for visibility, to make sure that, and I'll bring back a draft of, I don't think this, is that complicated, but I think this is the kind of situation where, God forbid, we don't want it to occur. And near misses are telling us that something drastic is going to occur. So it's time for us to, the code's already there. It's just enforcing and asking our residents to do their part to take preventive measures so that they're not experiencing a tragedy.
Mayor, we don't have the setback now in the ordinance, but we do have the height.
We
restriction.
do. It's 2.5 from the sidewalk,
no,
but
I
it doesn't
think-
say from sidewalk. It's
I
not
think-
clear.
I think code
very
enforcement said
clear. It's
4
difficult.
feet.
And basically what it falls on is visibility. If it impedes visibility, and Public Works and the police would decide on that. I mean, I don't think we need to leave it for,
Mhm.
calling the police to make a judgment call every time. It's just easier to tweak it with what for the most part would be 4, 4, and 4.
Yeah, no, I recall when code enforcement came out to my home, when I asked him, and he said it's we don't have a sidewalk. So it's 4 feet from the street, clear.
And it says here maximum height permitted is 6 feet. So I don't know where that 6 feet starts. I know some people have it short and then they're in 10 feet and then it goes high because they want privacy. I don't know.
So with this, right now, I think I'm looking more at visibility
Yeah.
of safety.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know it says ficus can't be taller than 8 feet, but the other
No.
6, and, what we're talking about is anything that impacts visibility for pedestrians and the sidewalk, and we're protecting the homeowners, pulling in and out of your driveway. All right, thank you so much with that. And then we'll move to the next agenda item, which is Councilman Santeen.
Yeah, one of the requests that, I guess we talk a little bit more about landscaping and beautification projects. It seems like for us, it's just, we have like a maintenance program. And that's why a lot of areas, they look like they need more than just a maintenance. It needs to actually be a project that actually invites people to go to these, different public spaces and, and there's more welcoming and so forth and enjoyable to be around. So I'd like to see if we can direct staff to establish, professionally get some guidance, but I don't think it's working the way we're doing it. I don't see it. A lot of people always constantly wondering why Westward doesn't have a more of a, there was time period when we did have it. There was a lot of annuals and a lot more color to Westward Drive. For some reason, that stopped. And I just think there's stuff that should not stop. It should not be a budget situation. Because this constantly is going to bring more people that are going to be inviting to our community. And to us to just say, well, we have a budget situation and we can't spend money on beautifying our landscaping in public places. I don't think that should be just a regular line item. That's normal course of business and it should be constant.
Councilman, are you talking about maintaining the current landscaping or
No, no,
beautifying and
Beautiful.
adding,
Make it-
enhancing it and making it?
Enhancing it. I'm saying like right now, I think we only have is like maintaining program. And when we're maintaining, it's not really, very inviting for the public to see. So that's all, just kind of hoping that we get the
JC, do you have
consensus
any
direct.
Thoughts on that?
Yes, actually, I happen to agree with Councilman Santeen. One of the things that I noticed in driving around after I started, I asked the question, I'm like, do we have irrigation out there in the medians? And the answer they told me was no, we don't have irrigation. We did have irrigation about 15, 20 years ago when there was, until we had a drought and when the county started enforcing the water restrictions that on odd number addresses can on Mondays and Wednesdays. And the direction came from one of the previous managers, I don't remember who, to shut down our irrigation. The problem is they never turn it back on. So the PVC underneath it's it cracked, it dried out. So right now it's as good as not having an irrigation system. So that would be before doing any landscape improvements. I'd want to make sure that we have the water to irrigate it so it doesn't die on us. And then the other thing that myself and Tammy had talked about as well is a master plan for us to develop a master plan. In my mind, my idea would be a landscape and streetscape master plan. That our garbage cans are going to look like this, our light bollards are going to look like this, our street furniture is going to look like this, and the landscaping is going to look like this. And then we start chipping away at it as budget allows, as grant funding allows, whatever, that we start chipping away at it and ultimately accomplish a cohesive look. And that way, when a garbage can breaks, we know exactly which one we're going to buy and put back. And it'll spread the image that we want to portray throughout the entire city. Additionally, when you have developments come up, we tell them, okay, on our sidewalk, we want this garbage can, we want this bench, we want this. This is what you got to do. And it gives us not a menu, but it gives them the standards that we want. And we say, this is what you need to put there. There's no questions after that. So that's the idea I have as far as the way to address this. And it would be on all of our roadways and open spaces, not parks, but it would be on our medians, particularly Curtis and Westward. And what other open spaces that we have? Any of the, what do they call
Circle used to have a lot of flowers.
the circle, and our medians, basically.
The country club.
Country club, we can talk about
I went about 2 years ago. I took Las and Lids in my car. We were driving around for an hour, going around the city and all. And yeah, they mentioned to me about the irrigation. But we were waiting for this town center to be done. Then obviously the golf course was going to be done. So there's always like some stalling, right? So the funds, we have to find the funds because I'm going to revert back to what I said earlier. We're giving funds away, so we should be able to give funds back to our city. It's super important that we get on this. And now that you mentioned that you require, developers to put certain landscaping. If you look, I need you to go by the town center. I don't know if that's finished, but it's weedscaping is what it is to me. It's around on the sidewalks. They have like these trees, which are nice, or little palms, but it's a bunch of weeds. I don't know if they're done with their landscape. They're
done with the landscape, but those, well, it depends on what you're
Stacy,
talking
help-
about weeds. It depends on what you're talking about the weeds. You have to show me more.
I will.
Because there's peanut grass, that's not weeds.
What's peanut grass?
It's,
Got like a little yellow flower on it
Oh, it didn't have yellow flowers.
and
Right. So we'll
it's in all of the medians.
I'll try to send you a picture, and I was just like,
Send me a
come on,
picture.
like this is.
and send me a picture and
Maybe.
we can take a look at that
Yeah, okay.
separately.
So yeah, I'm on board with Centene. We need to look at and beautifying our city, and I know all of us have
So
expressed that many times.
What are we asking here? What are we?
Like to maybe
But-
seek,
Architectural landscaping plans.
yeah,
That's it.
seek professional help, I guess, if that's what if it's needed.
For the
Obviously, we
master
don't have-
plan,
Yeah.
JC, what would you
Yeah,
need
it's,
to,
well,
is that something that we have in-house the ability? that
oh,
we
no,
can-
BNA would be our
Architect,
landscape
okay.
architect. So we'd speak with BNA. I've already had a meeting with
Oh.
their landscape architecture wing, if you will. Sorry.
Do we need to go through BNA, or can we RFP it to?
Oh, you can,
people that actually landscape architectural, like for a living, like a niche. You understand what I'm saying? Because they're like a all-in-one, so they'll promote, a project and provide some optional landscaping because they're working with landscapers, but
No, but
For
they do have landscape architects that do that for a living on, it's one of the services that they offer.
But I
But I
do wanna
understand what
look
you're saying.
at our prices, because if, you know,
We can,
to look at some
if it's up
options.
to the council, we can go out to do an RFQ for landscape
and
architects
provide
by
renderings,
itself.
yeah.
I like what you said, JC, of a master plan on this, so that this is the design that we're looking for, and,
Before
trash
that.
collection bins, the lighting, and as, like you said, chip away when we have the opportunity to start that, we put it in, and little by little, yes, Councilman.
Can the Board of Parks and Parkways also suggest some
I could-
landscaping? I mean, I don't think that we have to, like, hopefully, right? I think that there's an infrastructure problem that's keeping us from doing nicer landscaping than what we have, or any landscaping other than just, maintaining it so that it's not overgrown. So I think that we can only go up from where we're at, but if there's infrastructure that has to be, checked and repaired, I think that would be the first step. And then I think without having to, go to a landscape architecture firm, I think that the Board of Parks and Parkways, I mean, if we get the irrigation going, I think that we can plant some nice things that are gonna beautify it and make it look nice without, breaking the bank.
Through the mayor.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
I've worked closely with the Boards and Parks board. They've expressed that they have made suggestions to the landscaping in the city, and they were kind of just like not listened to. But they do agree that the city is in a position where it's going to need more than just a board to provide ideas. I mean, they're open to the tasks, but I can tell you right now, they'd be open to Councilman Santeen's suggestion to approach this holistically with a architectural master plan. It's a lot of work. I mean, I don't want to put more than what they're there to make maybe some suggestions, but they're not landscapers or landscaping artists per se. So to kind of get it moving.
I think this is really timely, Councilman Santeen, because we're preparing for the centennial.
Centennial.
Where,
Yes.
it may be possible that, for sponsorship for these kinds of things, a beautification of the city, that this all ties in with that preparations that we're doing for the centennial. And so one thing I just wanted to mention, and so I think it's, yes, I think we're all on board on that. Anything we can do to make our city more attractive and beautiful. One thing I wanted to mention with our former Public Works Director, Tom Nash, I had asked him one time when he was still our Public Works Director, I said, remember we had all these flowers
Yes.
under the oaks on Curtis, and that looks so beautiful. And that was a former Public Works Director that had put those in. And I said, that looks so beautiful. Why did we stop doing that? And he said, because that's really, really bad for the oak trees.
Okay.
The plants there, or the way they were, he goes, it looks really pretty. It's bad for, so again, if I hadn't heard that, I wouldn't have known. And so that's the whole thing of why we need to make sure we're looking at the whole picture, not just this looks pretty.
Right.
What are, the unintended consequences of this, or why would some other choice would be better?
Sure. So, yeah, I agree with you. I've heard that before, but then if you go to a city of Naples and other cities, they've tackled that, and they put baskets around the oak tree. And the annuals are hanging from the
From the
tree,
oak trees.
not on the floor. I mean, on the ground. So, there's ways of just, but in our case, that was a problem, an agreement, and it just stopped. They didn't look to see another alternative. Just said, okay,
Yes.
well, that's just the way it's gonna be. And
No,
and
so
once I became what
let's look for this. I think it fits right in with everything that we want to do of, prepare our city.
Can we ask the board for suggestions?
Sure.
If they've mentioned that they've made suggestions in the past, it seems like we're interested in doing it, and it seems like staff wants to try to get the infrastructure up and running. Maybe we can start to get some suggestions from them, and maybe it's just a matter of, once you have the irrigation.
I know we have a resident for a long, long time has asked, and she'll be very happy if she's listening that I'm mentioning this, is the on Westward Drive, the railings
that rustic railing.
With those wood railings. She's
yes.
called me or
Oh, she has, okay, yes.
got me
and-
at the senior
Yes,
center.
it really, it's unsightly to her. It's always bothered her and she's always wanted them removed. And I've always told her, look, down the road, we're going to be looking at ways to improve Westward Drive, and that's likely something that'll be discussed. So if that's something that comes up, she will be very happy because, she's voiced her concerns about that being unsightly. I think we see it more as rustic, kind of in keeping with the term of Westward Drive, but I want to throw that out there.
When's their next meeting? Their meeting?
This is Parks is June 11th.
Now they're going to have their agenda full with this tree
Yeah.
ordinance. So I don't know that this is the best time, other than to ask them going forward to, right?
So just,
Well, look, in the meantime, what I'll do is I will have another meeting with BNA, see what that process would look like. More importantly, cost.
To the mayor, do you think it'd be possible, if we can have the city clerk or city manager reach out to the board, on a group email asking for feedback or what they've previously, provided in previous times on what their suggestions are, compound that, and then maybe the city manager could report back to us with their suggestions so that we don't have
You can do
to
that.
good idea.
extend that.
Good idea.
They love and they respond on email. It's easier even for them to respond by email because sometimes.
Yeah,
we
but
schedule-
sometimes you don't need a meeting and just say, hey, tell me
Yeah.
what you'd like to
They
see.
may,
And it's
somebody
in
may
writing,
have
so you can't take
those
that.
minutes or memos or whatever.
Okay. All right, great.
Good.
All right, so we're all on board for that. So, anything else with that? Let's move to reports and recommendations. Our esteemed city attorney.
I have no report for you guys tonight, but I just wanted to say, Mayor, members of the council, it's always nice to see you all.
Oh,
Roger. And Heidi is on a cruise, right?
Well
Enjoying
deserved.
out in the Caribbean.
They're here.
Okay, city manager?
Yes, Mayor, thank you. I just wanted to report that Valiente Tennis will assume operations at the tennis court on May 27th. We had a meeting with them, because I know there was some concerns about their proposal and making sure that, they promised a lot that they were going to do it. They have provided me, and I will share that with you this week. They have provided me a timeline on when those are
Okay.
it's gonna come to fruition. So I'm gonna incorporate that into the contract. So they have a plan in place. Also, I've applied for 2 federal grants. I think I've mentioned this to you. I applied for 2 federal grants. One of them is for $500,000 for police cars, for police vehicles to update our police fleet. And the other one is, I think it's another 400,000 for updating of our stormwater master plan.
say that again?
The updating of the stormwater master plan. What, I thought I was gonna find out on Friday. But it looks like it might be this Friday that because they delayed that one until I believe it's this Friday. So keeping my fingers crossed, hopefully I'll have some good news for you on Friday. Also, I've applied for an FDOT grant for us to provide on-demand services, on-demand like a freebie-like service. So I applied for that grant. That would cover the cost of 50% of the service for 3 years. So if we get it, freebie does cost more money than what we're paying right now, our shuttle. But if we get this grant, then our 50% match is right along line with what we're currently paying, maybe even a little less. So that combined with our CITT, if we get it, I think we're looking pretty good there with converting to freebie. My goal, and I don't know how you all feel about this, and you can tell me otherwise. We're looking at, and I was talking to Liz the other day. We're looking at maybe somebody from the rec center, one of their part-timers. Maybe we can have them ride the bus and then take a head count and see how much it's really being utilized, our minibus. Because if we bring in freebie, there may not be a need for us to have the shuttle. Considering that our senior center, they have a bus and they go and pick up their clients, if you will, their customers, or the residents to go to the senior center. So I'd like to transition to a freebie type of service, an on-demand type of service. So I did apply for that grant. We'll see. Let me see what else. And well, I have Erica reach out to you because we're finally gonna do a ribbon cutting there at the golf course. So I'll have her send out some dates and we can get that done. Now that Kevin is in place. And that's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you, JC. Tammy, you have something for us?
Yes, I just wanted to remind everybody about the Memorial Day ceremony on May 27th at 9 a.m. On Curtis Parkway. And just start getting prepared for hurricane season that starts June 1st. Try not to leave the tree trimmings to the last minute. That's it.
Mayor, I do have one last thing. 4th of July is coming up. This may not be the most popular thing, but I've asked, based on some concerns from staff and liability reasons, the parade, we're gonna kind of turn away from the wet zone. And anybody that wants to participate in the wet zone, they can walk through the wet zone. But I've been told that in years past, people have been pelted with frozen balloons. Kids are hanging off the back of trucks. And it's quite a dangerous situation. I know it's a very fun and enjoyable time, and it's kind of part of tradition, but I have to protect the city. And if there are kids, from what I was told, I haven't witnessed it yet. From what I was told, there's like a bunch of kids hanging off the back of pickup trucks, throwing water balloons at each other. And all it takes is one situation where somebody hurts themselves and the fun is over. And plus a police officer did get hit with a frozen water balloon. So it's one of those, if you want to walk through it, have at it.
Walk through it? That's dangerous.
But I'm gonna have the actual parade turn off one stop before.
Parade instead of, I think in the past, you could turn off if you didn't want to
Right.
continue and the rest of the parade.
That's
could-
right.
So you're saying. you're gonna have-
The whole parade is gonna turn off. And if the kids want to do that and the pickup trucks want to, if they can walk through it and knock themselves out.
Walter, you're a professional at the water stuff.
I don't think that's gonna, I mean, that would essentially end it. Why would somebody want to just walk through it? Because then
I won't walk
Oh,
through
you
it.
crazy?
you can't, I mean,
I can't get to
I
it
guess
fast
you
enough.
could, but
If this is based on staff recommendation that they have brought to my attention. And when I hear liability issues, I worry. It's not an easy decision to make. I don't want to come in here and say, hey, we're gonna go out and change this just for the sake of changing it. That's not what I want to do. But there are some serious concerns, not just from like my Parks and Rec staff, but police as well. They're like, yeah, this is great. This is dangerous.
And we, through the mayor, is there, maybe we can limit the type of water activities that go through that street? So like no water balloons, just water guns, no ice, no.
I think the
like,
problem
limit-
with
I don't
that
know.
though, Councilwoman, is you
They don't
just,
listen.
You can.
right, it
Okay.
doesn't like even, I know in the past, and this is the first I've heard of it from JC, but I know in the past when we've said the water thing won't start until after Grace Lutheran or something,
Yeah,
they start it, and what are you going to do? Like, stop, it's
it's true.
so I think no matter what, it'll never be perfect, but that's a lot of fun for everyone. So if we can make it, and I know you're looking at the possibilities and all, but make it so that there's a good wet zone that you can
Yeah.
still participate in, even if vehicles aren't driving through it, but that we have a big, like giant splash zone or something, perhaps.
I'm not 100% concerned with the people that are throwing water balloons from the swale. It's from what was told to me, kids are hanging off trucks. And it gets a little out of control. And all it
Yeah.
takes is one.
and we could talk about it offline.
We can talk about it offline.
yeah.
I am not set on
issue-
anything yet.
The issue
I'm
is that
expressing a
you're
concern.
not supposed to throw water balloons. And I don't know of anybody in the actual parade that throws water balloons. You have like tubs of water and you have a water gun and you're shooting. The problem is that there are people on the swale that throw water balloons. But if you were just walking through it, then you have no water to throw back. So you basically would just be getting pelted. And then the people on the swale would be throwing water balloons at you.
That first water
And there
balloon
would
is
be
gonna really
nothing that
hurt
you could
after
do
that.
back.
It's
So
gonna be
you're
like
basically,
soaked.
no one's gonna want to go through the zone. So, but I can give you.
I'm open to it. I'm just expressing to you a
No, it's valid.
concern.
think
I-
you gotta
I-
just talk to the.
Well, and I know
participants.
that in the past, we'd gotten to the parade to a few years where, excuse me, we didn't have like the band, the marching band from the high school and other people participating. It was more like just trucks of people.
Yeah.
And when I had asked about that, I was told like the marching band, they go, we don't want to get wet. You know, we don't want our instruments wet. We don't want our uniforms soaked. So they were, and perhaps
Adjusted though. Didn't we adjust it?
Yeah,
That
we
they
did.
ended up
yes,
turning on
adjusted so
earlier?
that, right, you know, that all these things, because we do want participation as much as possible from, you know, the community, from a whole bunch, not just trucks, you know, as much as our residents love that and we love seeing them on it and stuff
It's
that,
changed. Ever since that was implemented, to be honest with you, 15 years ago, our parades were
Yep.
pretty much dead. There was
much
not a
what?
lot of movement there. There was not a lot of kids and things went to another level. So, but every time you address it with the participants, before they get on that truck, I said, look, you have too many, or, you know, staff, give them some guidance and say, look, we're not gonna allow this. You're gonna mess it up for everybody else.
Okay.
But I don't know about
I'm open to-
stopping it
I'm open to-
completely. I'm definitely not. in agreement.
just give it some thought.
I'm
then,
open to
just get
suggestions.
work
That's why
on
I'm
and
bringing
to
it up.
Listen to the council, talk to
I
the
will
council members
absolutely-
that have, you know,
Okay. But anyway, that came up recently. And so.
Mhm.
Okay.
okay. Vice Mayor?
I just happy to be up here and thank you guys for the spirited debate. And I think we're doing God's work.
Okay, we'll go with Councilman Vasquez on this end this time.
Just on a personal note, I think I mentioned this the last time, or one of the last times. It's been it's been an emotional and very nice, interesting graduation season, because my son, who's my youngest, graduated from Miami-Dade College, Hialeah, and my oldest graduated this week from Westchester Community College in New York. And she, I believe it was Langston Hughes says a dream deferred is a dream denied. And she went to Fashion Design High School in New York. With her plan was to be a fashion designer for plays, women's clothing for plays and stuff like that. And she got married very young and had 3 boys and raised them by herself for the last, 15, 20 years, put them through college. And now she graduated. She got some recognition for some designs that she did for a show. And then the cream of it was that she was admitted to the Fashion Institute of Technology, the most prestigious school in New York, which used to be a private institution. It's now part of the State University of New York, which makes the tuition more affordable. And I couldn't be more proud of her, to achieve that dream. So.
Congratulations.
She learned from my grandmother and my mother's feet. She always remembered that. My mother made clothing for us. My mother made my first guayabera when I was 11. So that was her dream, and I'm glad to see that it's not denied. So very happy.
Congratulations on both accounts, on your son and daughter. All right, Councilwoman Bravo?
Thank you for a productive meeting. I think we got a lot accomplished here. I will still be going to the wet zone with a clear box over my head. If you haven't tried it, try it. I highly suggest it, because I was able to look at people throw things at me instead of no, I had to get, so I like recreation center gave me a clear box full of like goodies. I told my girls, we dumped it all in the back seat. They got the stuff from the back seat and just put it right over my head. It was kind of fun. But thank you, JC, for bringing up those issues, because there are issues that we should take into consideration, make modifications and adjustments as should. But I think that's it. Thank you I was actually going to ask you about because I got a little bit jealous about VG getting their grant of the 450,000. So I made a phone call and they're like, oh no, JC's working on that. I'm like, okay, perfect, great. So thank you for applying for those grants. Talking about grants, I had a question. I know that when we first started as a council, we hired a grant writer, Tam. Are we still using her?
Yes.
Yes, Bell Tower. She's the one that I'm using
the
for
one-
the FDOT grant.
Okay.
The ones in the federal level, they're, those aren't grants at the federal level. Those are appropriation requests, just like we do at the state level. And so I did those myself.
Okay. Because last year, I don't know if she applied for anything she did. Okay. Do you think we could get a list of the grants that she's applied for since we've hired her, just so we know what she's working on, where we're at with that, just so we can, I'm sure she's doing it, but just for our sake, right? And the freebie, that's excellent. Is it I mean, I don't know what cars we're talking about. Is it comfortable for seniors to get in and out?
Yes, there's a couple of different vehicles.
Okay.
We're using, well, not we are using, but they use Teslas, as you know. They have those Teslas that you, I mean. no,
Not
they're
Bentleys
Teslas.
like Miami Beach, right? Because they're like super with
No,
all
no,
these.
no. And then for ADA purposes, they have electric vans that are
Okay,
ADA
good,
accessible.
good. Okay, good. So that's something I just want to make sure that we're going a positive direction.
Yes.
Okay, that's it.
And I'm still looking at partnering. I've been in communication with Spencer from Virginia, Mayor Dino from Virginia Gardens. And he's all on board with continuing, partnering with us so we can continue doing it together. So it'll be like what do we call it? As MSVG freebie type of service.
Sounds good to me. That's it. Thank you and have a good night.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman Santeen?
JC, I'd like to have a little update on the parking initiative.
Okay, we are at the next meeting, and I'm sorry, I thought it was gonna be at this meeting, but the proposal came in a little too late. We're gonna be purchasing the equipment for the police department, with the LPRs. We're gonna do that. And at this point, I believe we're ordering signs. So we'll be installing and getting things up and running.
Okay.
We're still moving forward. I ain't gonna.
Good to hear. Yeah, you don't want any surprise visits. Let's just the rest of you have a safe and blessed week. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. And for me, I just hope everyone had a wonderful Mother's Day with your family and your loved ones. The only thing I was going to mention is, and thank you all. It's always honestly a pleasure to work together. I know all of us have our efforts and our hearts are in very good places. I was going to just mention, if you happen to go on the expressway, what is that, the 874, the Palmetto and then 874 toward Kendall, how it branches off to Miami-Dade College or that way. Notice the overhead signs they have, which is FDOT, that's an FDOT road, the 874, I believe, expressway. And the overhead signs, I just realized the other day, they look Pueblo Mission style, and they're these concrete signs with then, I can't even describe it. I'll take a picture of it and ask Erica to send it all to you. But I thought these are really, we keep talking about having entrance signs and how complicated and these signs to me have that Pueblo Mission style. They're very simple. So I'm going to send it to Erica and just ask you to look at her. If you happen to go, we need to readdress that, especially for the centennial.
I have an update on that. I
Yes?
didn't know what you were gonna,
Okay,
I didn't know what
let's
you were gonna be
Remind
bringing
me,
up.
because today I saw him again and I keep forgetting to mention.
I have had a meeting and I have in my possession a proposal from BNA. Cause I asked them, I said, listen, we gotta do something about our entryways. I'd like to, Tammy and I specified, hey, it's gotta be a Pueblo Mission style. And they gave us a proposal to do like the design and provide us with a couple of different renderings, a couple of different versions. So that way we can, decide on something and
Excellent. Good,
Share with
good.
us?
I think
I can,
that's- Okay.
I'll share it with you guys and I can even, I was just looking for the right time to
Yeah,
drop that
no, I
in.
think It's, and it's all in keeping with preparing for our centennial, but the sooner we can get moving with these things, the
Yeah.
sooner our city benefits from it. And it's,
Oh, wow.
one more thing. Okay, that's great to know, JC. All right. And with that, thank you again. Have a wonderful evening.
Good evening.
God
Thank
bless
you,
our
Mayor.
beautiful city.
Good night.
Thank you.
Gavel. Oh.
This meeting is adjourned.